The alarm system screamed through the corridors of Defense Station Terminus. Captain Kyle Bennett ran toward the command center, his boots pounding against the metal floor. He had heard this alarm too many times before. It meant something was coming through the gate, something that did not belong. "Report," Kyle said as he entered the command center. His crew was already at their stations, fingers moving across glowing screens. "Unknown vessels approaching from Sector 7, said Lieutenant Jake Morrison. "At least 40 ships. They are not responding to our signals." Kyle felt his stomach tighten. Terminus Gate was the entrance to civilized space from the wild frontier. Everything that wanted to enter had to pass through here first. For the last 15 years, Kyle and his crew had been standing guard. They stopped pirates, smugglers, and worse things that came from the dark. "Battle stations," Kyle ordered. "Send a priority alert to the Council." The crew moved quickly. They had done this dance many times. Human ships powered up their weapons and moved into defensive positions. Kyle watched the enemy ships grow larger on his screens. They were Sindari vessels, painted in dark colors that seemed to swallow light. The Sindari Collective was a group of raiders and criminals who lived beyond the frontier. Admiral Nina Cross had warned the Galactic Council about them 6 months ago. She had shown them evidence that the Sindari were planning something big. The Council had dismissed her concerns. They said humans were too paranoid, too quick to see danger everywhere. Now those dangers were here, knocking on the door. The battle began without warning. Sindari ships opened fire and Kyle's fleet responded. The space around Terminus Gate lit up with weapons fire. Human ships moved in practice patterns, covering each other, protecting the gate. They had trained for this. They were good at this. 2 hours later, the Sindari retreated. Kyle's fleet had held the line, but 3 human ships were destroyed. 97 people died. Kyle knew most of them by name. He would write letters to their families tonight, just like he had written hundreds of letters before. The Council sent a message 12 hours later. It was short. Threat neutralized. Acceptable losses. Continue standard operations. Acceptable losses. Kyle stared at those words for a long time. 97 human lives were acceptable losses. He wondered if the Council would have used the same words if those ships had belonged to any other species. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out every day. Humans stood guard, fought battles, solved problems, and died protecting a civilization that barely noticed them. Dr. Lisa Parker worked in a medical station on the edge of Council space. She had been there for 8 years, studying diseases that affected species throughout the galaxy. When the Krethian plague broke out on nearby colonies, Lisa and her team stayed behind to work while other species evacuated. They worked for 6 months without sleep, testing combinations, failing, trying again. Lisa finally found the cure on a Tuesday morning. She was so tired she could barely stand, but she smiled as she looked at the test results. The cure worked. Thousands of lives would be saved. The Galactic Health Organization sent a representative to collect her research. He barely looked at Lisa as he downloaded her data. "This will be distributed under the organization's name," he said. "Standard protocol." Lisa watched him leave. "No thank you. No acknowledgement. Just standard protocol." Her name would not appear on the cure. The universe would never know that a human doctor had saved thousands of lives while everyone else ran away. In the Kelvin system, human peacekeepers worked to prevent a civil war. Commander Matt Torres led a team of negotiators who spent months talking to both sides, finding common ground, preventing violence. The Kelvins were an old species with a long history of conflict. They did not trust easily, but they learned to trust Matt. When the peace agreement was finally signed, the Council praised the Kelvans for their wisdom and maturity. They said nothing about the humans who had made it possible. Matt stood in the back of the ceremony hall and watched. He was used to being invisible. This was the pattern. Humans worked, humans fought, humans died, and the galaxy barely noticed. When things went right, other species took credit. When things went wrong, humans took the blame. Admiral Nina Cross had seen this pattern more clearly than most. She had spent 40 years in service, rising through the ranks, earning respect from her crews but never from the Council. When she presented her evidence about the Sindari threat, she had hoped things would be different. She had intelligence reports, intercepted communications, and tactical analysis. Everything pointed to a major attack. The Council meeting lasted less than an hour. Nina stood before the assembled representatives of 200 species and showed them everything she had learned. They listened with obvious boredom. Counselor Vren, a tall being with purple skin and too many eyes, finally spoke. Admiral Cross, your species has a reputation for seeing threats everywhere. Perhaps this is because you are yourselves a dangerous species. You build weapons instead of art. You study war instead of philosophy. We appreciate your service, but we do not appreciate your paranoia. Other counselors made sounds of agreement. Nina felt something cold settle in her chest. She had been in combat dozens of times. She had faced death and never flinched. But this casual dismissal hurt worse than any weapon. With respect, counselor, Nina said carefully, the evidence is clear. The Sindari are planning. Enough, said Council Speaker Thren. He was an ancient being, older than most stars, and he spoke with absolute authority. We have heard your concerns, Admiral. They are noted and dismissed. The Sindari are a minor nuisance, nothing more. Your battle at Terminus Gate was a small raid, nothing more. You overreacted as your species often does. Nina stood very still. The battle at Terminus Gate had killed 97 of her people. It was not a small raid. It was not an overreaction. But the Council had decided, and the Council did not change its mind. Is there anything else, Admiral? Thren asked. Nina looked at him. She looked at all of them. These beings who sat in comfortable chairs and made decisions about things they did not understand. They had never stood on the hull of a ship and watched their crew die. They had never worked for months without sleep to save lives. They had never negotiated peace between people who hated each other. They had never done any of the things they asked humans to do every single day. No, Council Speaker, Nina said quietly. There is nothing else. She turned and walked out of the chamber. Her aide, a young woman named Kate Donovan, followed her. They walked in silence through the massive council building, past marble statues of famous council members. There were no statues of humans. There never would be. Admiral, Kate said when they were finally alone. What do we do? Nina stopped walking. She looked out a window at the city below, full of beings from hundreds of worlds. They lived here in peace because humans stood guard at places like Terminus Gate. They lived here in health because humans like Lisa Parker found cures. They lived here in safety because humans like Matt Torres prevented wars. And they did not care. We do our jobs, Nina said. We always do our jobs, but something had changed in Nina's voice. Kate heard it and felt a chill run down her spine. That evening, Nina sent a coded message to every human military installation in the galaxy. The message was simple. Stand by for Protocol Exodus. The next day, Ambassador Greg Holland proposed that humans receive a permanent seat on the Galactic Council. Humans had been members of the galactic community for 200 years. They had fought in every major conflict. They had contributed to every scientific breakthrough. They had built stations, protected trade routes, and saved countless lives. Surely, after 2 centuries of service, they deserved a voice. The proposal was presented at the next council session. Greg stood before the council with carefully prepared arguments. He spoke about human contributions, human sacrifices, and human hopes for the future. When he finished, there was silence. Then Councillor Vren began to laugh. It was not a kind laugh. Other councillors joined in. Ambassador Holland, Thren said, you seem to believe that service equals entitlement. It does not. You have done only what was expected of you. Every species serves the council in their own way. You protect us because that is what you are good at. Should we give a seat to every species that does their job? But Greg started. No, Thren said firmly. This proposal is rejected. Humanity will continue in its current role. This discussion is over. Greg stood there, his prepared arguments dying in his throat. 200 years of service dismissed in 2 sentences. He looked around the chamber hoping to see support from someone, anyone. He saw only indifference. He walked out slowly, his head held high but his heart breaking. Nina heard about the council's decision within an hour. She sat in her office on the flagship Liberty and stared at the wall. Kate entered quietly and sat down across from her. They really believe it, Kate said softly. They really think we have not earned anything. Nina nodded. She had spent her entire life serving the council. She had believed, truly believed, that it mattered, that protecting others was its own reward, that eventually the galaxy would see humans as equals. She had been wrong. Nina opened a secure channel and sent a second message. This one went. The withdrawal began at midnight, Galactic Standard Time. Every human installation across known space shut down at exactly the same moment. Lights went dark. Engines went silent. Communication channels closed. At Terminus Gate, Captain Kyle Bennett gave the final orders to his crew. They moved through the station methodically, shutting down systems one by one. They did not rush. They did not panic. They simply did what needed to be done. "Sir," Jake Morrison said, "are we really doing this?" Kyle looked at his second-in-command, this young man who had served with him for 5 years. Jake had lost his sister in the last Sindari raid. Her name had been Amanda. She had been 24 years old. "Yes," Kyle said simply. "We are really doing this." "What about the gate? Who will protect it?" "Not our problem anymore," Kyle said. The words felt strange in his mouth. For 15 years, everything that happened at this gate had been his problem, but no more. The human fleet departed at 0100 hours. 47 ships simply turned around and flew away from the gate they had protected for so long. Behind them, Terminus Gate sat empty and dark. Its massive structure still stood, but no one was home. The Galactic Council received the first reports an hour later. At first, they thought it was a technical problem. Then the reports kept coming. Human bases going offline, human ships leaving their posts, human personnel evacuating stations across the galaxy. "What is happening?" Counselor Vren demanded. "Where are they going?" "They are leaving," an aide said, confusion clear in his voice. "All of them, everywhere. Leaving? They cannot just leave. They have contracts. They have obligations," the aide checked his datapad. "Sir, the contracts were all properly terminated. Every single one. They gave legal notice according to council regulations. Everything was filed correctly." Vren stared at the aide. "They planned this." "It appears so, sir." Council Speaker Thren called an emergency session. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered, all asking the same questions. Why had the humans left? Where had they gone? When would they come back? No answers came. The humans had simply vanished. On the frontier world of Kepler 442b, Matt Torres supervised the evacuation of the human mining colony. The colony had been there for 30 years. Matt himself had been born here. This dusty red planet was the only home he had ever known. The Pelians who worked in the mines watched in confusion as humans packed up their equipment. The Pelians were a friendly species with soft gray fur and large eyes. They had worked alongside humans for decades. "Matt," said one of the Pelians, a female named Sarah. "Why are you leaving? Did we do something wrong?" Matt stopped what he was doing and looked at her. Sarah had 3 children. Her oldest daughter wanted to be an engineer, just like Matt. He had been teaching her mathematics. "No, Sarah," Matt said gently. "You did nothing wrong. You and your people have been good to us, the best neighbors we could ask for." "Then why?" Matt struggled to find the right words. "Because the people who give orders do not value us, and we cannot keep giving everything to people who see us as nothing." "But you are not nothing to us," Sarah said, tears forming in her large eyes. "You are our friends." Matt felt his throat tighten. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. "This has all the mining data we collected over 30 years. Geological surveys, safety protocols, everything. The planet is yours now. Take care of it." He also pulled out a piece of paper with handwriting on it. "This is for your daughter. Study materials. She is smart, Sarah. She will do great things." Sarah took the items with shaking hands. "Will you ever come back?" "I do not know," Matt said honestly. "I hope so, but not until things change." The last human ship left Kepler 442b at dawn. Sarah stood on the landing platform and watched it disappear into the sky. She looked down at the note Matt had left. At the bottom he had written, "I am sorry we could not stay." At the research station on Titan, Dr. Lisa Parker worked through the night, organizing her files. She had 8 years of research here, 8 years of discoveries and breakthroughs. The Galactic Health Organization would want all of it. But Lisa had other plans. She carefully separated her work into 2 categories. The first category was research funded by the organization, work she had been paid to do. This she left behind, properly documented and organized. The organization had paid for it, so the organization could have it. The second category was everything else. Personal research, side projects, theories she had developed on her own time. This included her latest work, the research that would have led to cures for 6 different diseases. She copied all of this onto encrypted drives and wiped it from the station's computers. When representatives from the Galactic Health Organization arrived to take over the facility, they found the labs clean and empty. Equipment was functional. The basic research was there, but the real breakthrough work, the genius that had made Lisa Parker famous, was gone. On the main computer screen, Lisa had left a message. This work was done freely. It will not be stolen. The organization sent angry messages to the council. They had counted on human research. They had built their plans around it. Now it was gone, and they did not even understand most of the research Lisa had left behind. Without her there to explain it, the data was just numbers. Throughout council space, the same pattern repeated. Humans left behind everything they had built. Stations still functioned. Equipment still worked. But the expertise, the knowledge, the intangible things that made it all work, those things left with the humans. It took the council 3 weeks to assign new personnel to Terminus Gate. They chose the Arathi, a proud warrior species with a long military tradition. Commander Zen led the Arathi fleet with absolute confidence. Humans were good soldiers, he thought, but the Arathi were better. Zen moved his ships into position around the gate. He studied the human defensive patterns and laughed. Too complicated, he told his officers. We will do this the proper way. The strong way, his officers agreed enthusiastically. The Arathi way was direct and powerful. They did not need human cleverness. In the Kelvin system, both sides of the old conflict watched the human peacekeepers leave. For months, Matt Torres and his team had kept tensions low, had prevented violence, had found solutions. Now they were gone. Within days, small fights broke out. Nothing major at first. Just arguments that turned into pushing matches. Then someone threw a punch. Then someone fired a weapon. The violence spread like fire in dry grass. Both sides called for human mediators. No one answered. Across the galaxy, species began to realize what they had lost. Trade routes that humans had protected saw a sudden increase in pirate attacks. Stations that humans had maintained began having technical problems. Research that humans had led simply stopped. But the council remained firm. They will come back, Councillor Vren said confidently. This is a tantrum. They want attention. We will not give it to them. They need us more than we need them. Thren was not so sure. He was old enough to remember when humans first joined the galactic community. They had been eager then, excited to meet other species, happy to help. Something had changed. Something had broken. But Thren said nothing. He was council speaker. He could not show doubt. The weeks turned into months. The council tried to contact human leadership. Messages were sent to every known human colony and station. Most messages received no response at all. A few received brief formal replies. Humanity appreciates your communication. We are unavailable at this time. Ambassador Kate Donovan became the human representative to external affairs. She was no longer called ambassador, because there was no embassy. She worked from a small office on a human station called New Fortuna, far from council space. When the council finally managed to arrange a communication with her, she appeared on their screens looking calm and professional. Behind her, they could see windows showing a blue sky and green fields. Wherever New Fortuna was, it looked peaceful. Representative Donovan, Thren said, the council requests that human personnel return to their previous positions. Your absence is causing difficulties, Kate smiled politely. I appreciate the council's concern, but we must decline. Decline? Vren exploded. You cannot decline. You have responsibilities. Our responsibilities ended when our contracts were properly terminated, Kate said. Her voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath. We fulfilled every obligation to the letter of the law. We gave proper notice. We settled every debt. We owe nothing. But the galaxy needs you, Thren said. He was trying a different approach now, appealing rather than demanding. The galaxy needed us for 200 years, Kate replied. It is interesting that you only notice now that we are gone. We made mistakes, Thren admitted. Perhaps we did not show sufficient appreciation. But people are dying now. Surely that matters to you. Kate's expression hardened. People were dying before. Human people. 97 humans died at Terminus Gate while protecting a council that called their sacrifice acceptable losses. Thousands of humans died over 2 centuries, and the council barely noticed. Now other species are dying and suddenly it matters. So you will do nothing? Vren sneered. You will let innocent people suffer because of your hurt feelings? We will protect our own, Kate said firmly. We will help those who treated. The attack came 2 months after humanity's departure. Commander Zen was reviewing tactical reports when his sensors screamed a warning. 40 ships had just emerged from dark space near Terminus Gate. They were Sindari vessels, exactly as Admiral Nina Cross had predicted. Battle stations, Zen ordered. His Arathi warriors moved quickly to their positions. They were confident, They were strong. They were the best fighters in the galaxy. The Sindari opened fire without warning. Zen's fleet responded with overwhelming force, just as they had been trained. Orathi ships were powerful, armed with the heaviest weapons in Council space. They fired again and again, filling space with deadly energy. But something was wrong. The Sindari ships moved in patterns Zen did not understand. They would appear in one place, fire, then disappear before his weapons could target them properly. They struck from angles he had not anticipated. They used the gate structure as cover in ways he had not thought possible. Zen suddenly understood why Captain Kyle Bennett had set up his defenses in such complicated patterns. The humans had not been overthinking the problem. They had been solving it. 6 hours later, the battle was over. The Sindari retreated, but not before destroying 12 Orathi ships and crippling 8 more. Zen's proud fleet was broken. Worse, the Sindari had punched through the gate and escaped into Council space. The Council demanded answers. Zen stood before them, his pride in ruins. How did this happen? Ren shouted. You told us the Orathi could hold the gate. We fought as well as any fleet could fight, Zen said quietly. His voice was heavy with shame. But the humans were right. The Sindari are not a minor threat. They are organized, well-armed, and they have been planning this for a long time. Admiral Cross tried to warn you. Then why did you fail where the humans succeeded? Thren demanded. Zen looked at the Council speaker. Because the humans were not just good fighters. They were good thinkers. They studied their enemies. They learned their patterns. They anticipated attacks that we thought were impossible. We Orathi have strength and courage, but the humans had something more. They had patience and wisdom. Are you saying the Orathi are inferior to humans? Thren asked dangerously. No, Zen said. I am saying we are different. The humans were not better warriors than us, but they were better guardians. There is a difference. The Council dismissed Zen angrily, but his words stayed with them. Better guardians? What did that mean? The Sindari raids continued. Without human early warning systems, the Council could not predict where they would strike next. 17 systems were attacked over the next month. The Sindari stole supplies, destroyed infrastructure, and disappeared before Council forces could respond. In the Kelvin system, the situation grew worse every day. The old conflicts that Matt Torres had carefully managed now exploded into open warfare. Both sides claimed the other had started it. Both sides were probably right. The Council sent Palathian peacekeepers to replace the humans. The Palathians were a diplomatic species, famous for their patience and wisdom. Surely they could handle one small civil war. 3 weeks later, the Palathian commander sent an urgent message. We need help. We do not understand these people. Every time we solve one problem, 2 more appear. The humans made this look easy. It is not easy. Someone checked the records and found hundreds of incident reports from when humans had been in charge. Small disputes, minor violence problems that had been solved so quietly that the Council never even knew about them. Matt Torres and his team had been putting out fires every single day, preventing the small problems from becoming big ones. Now those small problems had grown into a war. Thousands of Kelvins were dying.
Ancient cities were burning.
And the Palathian peacekeepers had no idea how to stop it. On Kepler 442b, disaster struck in the mines. The Pelians, working hard to maintain the operation Matt Torres had left behind, pushed too deep into a new tunnel. They were eager to prove they could manage without human help. The tunnel collapsed. 3 miners were killed instantly. 5 more were trapped underground. Rescue teams rushed to save them, but they did not know where to dig. They did not understand the geology like Matt had. Sarah, the Pelian female who had been friends with Matt, looked at the maps he had left behind. There were notes in the margins, warnings about unstable rock formations. Matt had marked dozens of areas as dangerous. The new tunnel had been dug right through one of those marked areas. He knew, Sarah said softly, staring at the map. He knew this would collapse. That is why he never dug here. 2 of the trapped miners died before rescuers could reach them. 5 dead in total. 5 deaths that would not have happened if Matt had been there to say no. That area is too dangerous. The Galactic Health Organization faced its own crisis. The Crethian plague had returned, mutated into a new form. The old cure did not work anymore. They needed to develop a new one quickly, but they discovered a problem. Dr. Lisa Parker's research notes were incomplete. She had written them for herself, using abbreviations and shortcuts that made sense to her but confused everyone else. The organization's best scientists studied her work and could not follow her logic. "We need her to explain this," one scientist said desperately. "Without her guidance, it will take us years to understand what she discovered in months." They tried to contact Lisa. She did not respond. Messages were sent to New Fortuna and other human colonies. All requests were denied politely but firmly. Dr. Parker was not available. The plague spread to 7 worlds. Quarantine measures slowed it but could not stop it. Thousands died while scientists struggled to recreate work they did not understand. They had taken Lisa's genius for granted, assuming they could simply pick up where she left off. They were wrong. The galactic economy began to collapse. For 2 centuries, human ships had protected trade routes between systems. They had done this so reliably that everyone had forgotten it was even necessary. Pirates and raiders had been rare because humans had kept them rare. Now, with humans gone, the raiders returned. Ships traveling between systems required heavy military escorts. Insurance rates for cargo vessels increased by 3,000%. Many shipping companies simply stopped operating because it was too expensive and dangerous. Trade between systems dropped by 60%. Goods that had once been cheap and plentiful became rare and expensive. 12 species that depended on interstellar trade for their survival began facing economic collapse. The Council held emergency meetings every day. They tried to reorganize their defenses, redistribute their peacekeepers, and manage the crisis. But they quickly discovered that humans had been doing far more work than anyone realized. Humans had not just been guards and soldiers. They had been coordinators, problem solvers, and the glue that held the Council's operations together. Without them, everything fell apart. "How did we not see this?" one counselor asked during a late-night session. "How did we not realize how much they were doing?" "We saw what we wanted to see," another replied quietly. "We thought they were just following orders. We did not understand that they were making the orders work. There is a difference." A journalist named Krell from the Galactic News Network decided to investigate the human departure. He wanted to understand why they had left and what the galaxy had lost. His research took him to dozens of worlds where humans had served. On one space station, he found maintenance logs showing that human engineers had prevented 17 critical system failures in a single year. The new engineers had not even known those systems needed monitoring. On another world, he found testimony from people who had been saved by human doctors, taught by human teachers, and protected by human soldiers. They all said the same thing. The humans had cared. Really cared. Not because they were paid to, but because it was who they were. Krell finally managed to get an interview with someone who had worked closely with humans. Tyler Grant had been a junior analyst at Terminus Gate under Captain Kyle Bennett. Now he taught history at a university on New Fortuna. "Why did you all leave?" Krell asked. "Did you not care about the people you were protecting?" Tyler's expression hardened. "We cared more than anyone. That was the problem. We watched our friends die protecting species that treated us like hired thugs. We gave everything and were told we gave nothing special. So we stopped giving. But people are dying now," Krell pressed. "People were dying before." Tyler replied quietly. "Human people. My sister died at Terminus Gate during the first Sindari raid, the one the Council called a minor incident. Her name was Amanda. She was 24 years old. She wanted to be an artist. 50,000 humans died in various battles over the years. The Council sent form letters of acknowledgement. But when Councillor Vren's nephew died in a shuttle accident 3 years ago, the galaxy had a week of mourning. We learned where we stood. Where did you stand? Krell asked. Below everyone else. We were the servants. The guards, the help. We were useful but not valued. Important but not respected. We could die for the Council, but we could not sit with the Council. Krell published his investigation as a series of articles. The response shocked him. Millions of beings across the galaxy read his words and began to see patterns they had been blind to before. One being wrote, "I remember when humans saved my colony from the 6 months after humanity's departure, the galaxy was dying. That was the only word that fit." The Council tried to hide the truth, but everyone could see it. Systems were falling. Economies were collapsing. People were dying by the millions. The Void Swarm moved through space like a plague. Their organic ships consumed everything they touched, breaking down matter and using it to build more ships. They did not negotiate. They did not stop. They simply advanced, system by system, world by world. The Council fleet met them at the Outer Rim, at a place called the Barrier Stars. It was the same location where humans had fought the Swarm 15 years ago. 50,000 humans had died there, buying time for the Council to prepare. This time, the Council was not prepared. The battle lasted 3 days. When it was over, the Council fleet was destroyed, 140 ships reduced to debris, 200,000 beings dead. The swarm continued forward without slowing down. Commander Zen survived the battle, though his ship was badly damaged. He managed to limp back to Terminus Gate, where he sent a report to the Council. His words were simple and bitter. We lost because we did not understand our enemy. The humans understood. We should have listened to them. The Council emergency session was chaos. Representatives from 200 species all shouted at once, demanding solutions, casting blame, and pointing fingers at each other. Council Speaker Thren tried to maintain order, but even his ancient authority was not enough. We need to evacuate the frontier worlds, one councillor said. Pull back to our core systems and fortify there. Abandon millions of people? Another shouted back.
That is exactly what the humans did for us last time.
And where are the humans now? Thren snapped. Hiding in their own space while we die. This proves they never cared about anyone but themselves. Or maybe, a small voice said, it proves we never cared about them. The chamber fell silent. The speaker was Councillor Dren, a being from a minor species that few people noticed. Dren rarely spoke, but when he did, people listened. What did you say? Thren demanded. I said maybe we never cared about them, Dren repeated. We used them. We sent them to die in our place. And when they asked for basic respect, we laughed at them. Now we are surprised that they left. Why would they stay? What reason did we give them? They had a duty. Thren shouted. No, Dren said softly. They had a contract. They fulfilled that contract. Their duty, as they saw it, was to their own survival, just like ours. Before Vren could respond, an alarm sounded. The Sindari Collective had launched a major offensive. With Council forces distracted by the swarm, the raiders were taking advantage. 20 more systems were under attack. In the Kelvin system, the Civil War had evolved into something worse. A warlord named Craven had seized power in the southern continent. His forces were conducting what could only be called ethnic cleansing. Entire villages disappeared. Refugees fled north by the millions. The Council sent peacekeepers, but they were ineffective. They tried to negotiate, but Craven did not want peace. He wanted victory. The peacekeepers did not have the experience or the will to stop him. They did not have the humans' understanding of how to deal with tyranny. Earth's history was full of such men, and humans had learned hard lessons about stopping them. But those lessons were gone now, locked away in human minds on distant colonies. The Kelvin death toll reached 100,000, then 200,000. The numbers kept climbing. Sarah, the Pelion from Kepler 442b, watched the news reports and cried. She thought about Matt Torres, who had prevented conflicts like this for years. She thought about his patience, his wisdom, his ability to talk to people who hated each other and find common ground. We need him, she said to her husband. We need them all back. They will not come, her husband replied. Not after what we did to them. Would you? Sarah had no answer. The galactic economy was in freefall. The galactic treasury announced that 14 species were facing bankruptcy. Trade had dropped so low that some worlds could not get basic supplies. Food shortages were reported on 17 colonies. Insurance companies that covered interstellar shipping were collapsing. They had based their entire business model on a galaxy protected by human fleets. Without that protection, the costs were too high. Ships were being lost to pirates at rates not seen in 2 centuries. One economist published a report that shocked everyone. Human trade protection was subsidizing the entire galactic economy, the report said. They were providing security that should have cost trillions of credits. They did it for a fraction of that price. We built our wealth on their service, and we never even noticed. The Galactic Health Organization faced complete failure. The Crethian plague had now spread to 23 worlds. Their scientists had made some progress on a new cure, but it was too slow. People were dying faster than they could work. In desperation, they tried again to contact Dr. Lisa Parker. This time they offered money. A lot of money. Enough to fund 100 research stations. Lisa's response was brief. I do not need your money. I already have everything I need. But thank you for finally recognizing the value of my work. It only took thousands of deaths. Her words cut deep, but they were true. The organization had never valued her research until they lost it. They had taken her genius for granted. The journalist Krell continued his investigation. He had become famous for his articles about humanity's departure, and now he went deeper. He began interviewing counselors, asking them hard questions about their treatment of humans. Most refused to talk to him. But a few old beings who were near the end of their lives were willing to be honest. We were afraid of them, one ancient counselor admitted. Humans were so good at war, so good at violence. We worried that if we gave them power, they would use it against us. So we kept them in a place where they could protect us but never threaten us. Did it work? Krell asked. No, the counselor said sadly. It made them leave. And now we see that we were wrong about them. They were not dangerous because they were good at war. They were dangerous because they were willing to walk away. We thought we had control. We had nothing. Another counselor told Krell. I voted against giving humans a council seat. I thought they had not earned it. Looking back, I cannot imagine what more they could have done to earn it. They did everything we asked and more. We just did not want to share power. These interviews were published and read by billions. The galaxy was finally having a conversation it should have had decades ago. But the conversation came too late. Tyler Grant, the former analyst from Terminus Gate, received hundreds of messages every day. Some were from beings thanking him for his service. Others were from beings begging humans to return. Some were angry, calling humans cowards for abandoning the galaxy. One message came from a Kelvin refugee who had barely escaped Craven's forces. Please come back, the message said. My family is dead. My village is gone. The peacekeepers here are trying, but they do not know what to do. We need someone who understands evil and knows how to stop it. Please. Tyler showed the message to his students. This is what we face, he said. People are suffering. People who did nothing wrong. They are paying for the council's mistakes. How do we respond? We stay away, one student said. We owe them nothing. We help, another student argued. This is not about the council. This is about innocent people dying. If we go back, nothing will change, a third student said. The council will use us and dismiss us again. The pattern will repeat. Tyler listened to them debate. These were good people, young humans who wanted to do the right thing. But what was the right thing? Protect yourself or protect others? Stand firm or show mercy? Justice or compassion? He did not have easy answers. Admiral Nina Cross stood on the bridge of the Liberty and watched the reports come in. The swarm was advancing. The Sindari were raiding. The Kelvin War was spreading. And the council was drowning. Admiral, Kate Donovan said, entering the bridge, I am getting messages from the council every hour now. They are begging us to return. What are they offering? Nina asked. Everything. A permanent council seat. Control of all defensive operations. Reparations for past service. They are desperate. Nina turned away from the screens and looked at Kate. Do you think they mean it? Kate was quiet for a moment. I think they are desperate enough to promise anything. Whether they would keep those promises once the crisis is over, I do not know. Neither do I, Nina admitted. That is the problem. How do we trust them after everything they did? Maybe we do not need to trust them, Kate said. Maybe we just need to trust ourselves. We can set our terms. We can demand real change. We can go back as equals, not servants. Or they will smile and nod, use us to fix their problems, and then slowly push us back into our old role. Nina said, It has happened before, Kate, to other species. To other groups. They promise change, then return to their old ways once the danger passes. Kate nodded. She knew Nina was right to be cautious. But she also knew that people were dying. Not counselors, not politicians, but ordinary beings who had never done anything to deserve this suffering. What about the Kelvin refugees? Kate asked quietly. What about the plague victims? What about the miners on Kepler 442b, who have lost 5 people to accidents that Matt Torres would have prevented? Do they? The message arrived at Council headquarters exactly 1 year after humanity had departed. It was short and formal, sent through official channels. The Council was invited to send representatives to New Fortuna for negotiations. Not demands. Not orders. An invitation. Council Speaker Thren looked at the message for a long time. This was what they had been waiting for. But now that it was here, he felt fear. Humanity held all the power now. They could demand anything. They could humiliate the Council. They could exact revenge for 2 centuries of dismissal and disrespect. Or they could simply say no and let the galaxy burn. We should send our best diplomats, Thren said. People who can negotiate from a position of strength. We have no position of strength, Thren replied tiredly. We are dying, and they know it. We go as beggars, not as equals. Then maybe you should go, said Counselor Dren. You are the council speaker. Show them we take this seriously. Thren nodded slowly. He was old. So old that he could barely remember a time before his species had joined the galactic community. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had witnessed great moments and terrible mistakes. This felt like both. I will go, he said, and I will tell them the truth. We were wrong. The council delegation arrived at New Fortuna 3 days later. As their ship descended through the atmosphere, they saw a world unlike anything in council space. Green forests covered rolling hills. Blue oceans stretched to the horizon. Cities built from wood and stone rather than metal and glass dotted the landscape. It looked peaceful, safe, like a place where people could actually live, not just survive. They were met at the landing platform by Kate Donovan. She wore simple clothes, not a uniform. She smiled and welcomed them like guests, not enemies. Council Speaker Thren, she said, bowing slightly. Thank you for coming. The walk to the meeting hall is about 10 minutes. I hope you do not mind walking. We prefer it to vehicles when possible. As they walked through the human colony, the council representatives saw something that surprised them. Humans everywhere, but also other species. Pelians working in gardens. Orathi teaching combat classes to human students. Even a few Kelvins, refugees from the war, living peacefully among humans. You took in refugees, Thren observed. Of course, Kate said. People needed help. We helped them. That is what decent beings do. The words were simple but cutting. We helped them, because that is what decent beings do. The implication was clear, unlike you. The meeting hall was a simple building with large windows that let in natural light. Inside, the human delegation waited. Admiral Nina Cross stood at the center, flanked by military officers and civilian leaders. Matt Torres was there, representing the frontier colonies. Dr. Lisa Parker attended via video link, too busy with her research to come in person. Council Speaker, Thren looked at these humans and felt something he had not felt in centuries. Uncertainty. These were not the eager junior species that had joined the council 200 years ago. These were equals. Perhaps more than equals. Please sit, Nina said, gesturing to chairs. Would you like refreshments? We have water, juice, coffee. We can accommodate most species' dietary needs. Thank you, Thren said. They sat and the humans served them drinks personally. It was a small gesture but meaningful. In council chambers, servants brought drinks. Here, leaders served their guests themselves. I will be direct, Thren said once everyone was settled. The galaxy is in crisis. We need your help. We are prepared to offer you anything you want. Permanent council seat, full authority over defensive operations, financial compensation for 2 centuries of service. Name your terms. Nina looked at him steadily. Those are generous offers. 1 year ago, they would have meant everything to us. Now, they mean less. Then what do you want? Vren demanded. He had insisted on coming, and now his frustration showed. What price are you asking? How much will you make us pay for your help? That is the wrong question, Matt Torres said quietly. You still do not understand. Then explain it to us. Vren shouted. Stop playing games and tell us what you want. Kate held up a hand, silencing Vren before anyone else could respond. Do you know why we left? She asked. Because you wanted more power, Vren said. Because you were angry about not getting a council seat. No, Kate said. We left because you treated us like tools, like machines that existed to serve you. We gave you everything and you gave us nothing. Not gratitude, not respect, not even basic acknowledgement that we were people with our own value. She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the peaceful landscape. When we left, we did not sabotage anything. We did not steal anything. We did not hurt anyone. We just stopped giving, and you fell apart. Do you know why? Because you were holding everything together, Thren said quietly. Yes. Kate turned back to face them. But more than that, we fell apart because you built your entire civilization on our labor and never noticed. You created systems that only worked because we made them work. And when we left, you realized you had no idea how to do it yourselves. Dr. Lisa Parker's voice came through the speakers. I spent 8 years finding cures for diseases that affected every species in the galaxy. My work saved millions of lives. When I left, I took my latest research with me. Was that wrong? You let people die, Vren said accusingly. People who needed that cure. I let the organization fail, Lisa corrected. There is a difference. The organization took my work, put their name on it, and never once credited me. They treated me like a tool that generated data. When I stopped generating data, they expected to just replace me with someone else. They learned they could not, she paused. I finished the cure, by the way, 2 months after I left. I now offer it to any colony or station that asks free of charge, but not to the organization. They can figure it out themselves. Thren felt something inside him break. These were not unreasonable beings. They were not cruel or vindictive. They were simply done accepting disrespect. You are right, he said. His ancient voice cracked. Everything you say is right. We used you. We dismissed you. We took you for granted. I see that now. I am sorry. Tears formed in his eyes, something his species rarely displayed in public. I am so sorry. We were fools. We were blind. And innocent people are paying for our blindness with their lives. He stood slowly, his old body struggling. Then he did something no council speaker had ever done. He bowed, deeply, showing complete submission and respect. Please, Thren said, help us, not because of anything we offer you, not because you owe us anything, but because people are dying, people who never hurt you, people who need the protection only you can provide, please. The room was silent. Nina exchanged glances with the other human leaders. They had discussed this moment endlessly. They had prepared for anger, for demands, for threats. They had not prepared for a genuine apology. Stand up, Nina said gently. Please, council speaker. Stand up, Thren straightened slowly. Nina walked over to him and looked into his eyes. We will help, she said, but not because you asked, and not for your offers of power or money. We will help because you are right. Innocent people are dying, and we cannot stand by and let that happen. It is not who we are. Relief washed over Thren's face. Thank you. Thank you. But, Nina continued, her voice hardening, things will be different now. We do not come back as your servants or your guards. We come back as your equals, true equals. And if you ever treat us like tools again, we will leave again. And next time we will not return. We understand, Thren said. Whatever terms you set, we agree. Kate stepped forward. Here are our terms. First, humanity gets a permanent voting seat on the council. Not advisory, not observational. Full voting power. Agreed, Thren said immediately. Second, human military forces operate under human command. We will coordinate with council forces, but we will not take orders from council politicians. Our commanders decide how we fight. Agreed. Third, any research or innovation created by human scientists remains credited to those scientists. No more stealing our work and claiming it as council discoveries. Agreed. Fourth, and most important, Kate's voice was steel now, we have the right to refuse. If the council asks us to fight an unjust war, we can say no. If the council asks us to support oppression, we can say no. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves, but we will not be weapons for council ambitions. Vren started to object, but Thren silenced him with a gesture. Agreed, the council speaker said. All of your terms are agreed. When can you begin deployment? We already have, Nina said with a slight smile. Captain Kyle Bennett left for Terminus Gate 3 days ago. He took volunteers, humans, and Arathi working together. Commander Zen requested to serve under his command. Kyle agreed. Dr. Lisa Parker is sharing her plague cure as we speak, Kate added, free of charge to any world that needs it. Matt Torres is preparing to return to the Kelvin system with a peacekeeping force. Thren stared at them in shock. You decided to help us before we even arrived? We decided to help innocent people, Nina corrected. That decision was never really in doubt. The only question was on what terms we would return. You have agreed to our terms. Now we can work together properly. Over the next few weeks, human forces returned to council space. But this time, everything was different.